Well, welcome to the absolutely beautiful Wold Farm Fishery, and this is probably the ultimate hidden gem as far as commercial fisheries are concerned. It is like the most manicured, beautiful fishery you could ever wish to come to. I mean, this is the Islands Lake, and I'm just not actually going to fish on here, but I've had a bit of a rude awakening this morning. Got down here, and it was -2 when I got in the van this morning, and as you can see, we've got a lake covered in ice, but fortunately, there's plenty of spots without ice on it. And we're not actually going to fish on this lake. This is the Islands Lake, and as you can see, it's just a stunning fishery. There's the Moat Lake over there in the distance. This one's the Islands, and we're going to go on the Oaks Lake, which is behind us, which is like more of the matchy one. But I must admit, I wasn't expecting to see that cat ice on this venue today. It was lovely and mild yesterday. Thought we were going to have a lovely day, quite a mild day, and it might be later, but good sign. There's fish topping everywhere in this open area, so at least the fish might be active. But the first job, probably the most important, is to get in that cafe and get some grub, because I'm starving. So yeah, this is Wold Farm, absolutely stunning fishery. The birds are singing. I think we're gonna have a great day. So let's get in the cafe, get some breakfast. Is it warm in here, Dax? It needs to be warm in here, doesn't it? Morning.
Morning.
Couldn't order a bacon sarnie, could I please? Well, there we go, look. Nice little bacon roll.
Just sent me a message, he's not coming.
Full shot full of Nufish. What could be better? So I'm going to get this down me, and then we're going to go and find a peg to fish. We've just spoke to Dax. I think we've got where we want to go, about peg 21 on the Oaks Lake. So get this down me. I've got red sauce. What do you like, red or brown? But yeah, we're going to head on to the Oaks Lake with a few maggots and hopefully catch some nice skimmers and maybe an odd carp too. So see you in a bit. My kind of tackle shop. Help yourself to bait. Oh, let's get some bait. A few pinkies. So I've been told that pinkies are doing the job. And then let's get a few red maggots. Won't need many today, I don't think. Let's get a few nice red maggots. Look at them, fresh as you like. Just have them. I think that's probably way too much, but that'll do. I've got a few pellets, maggots and pinkies. More than enough to have a great day, I should imagine. So let's get over there, find ourselves a peg, and get fishing. Good job I like a challenge, because as you can see, the Oaks has got a lid on it, much more than the other lakes. Now I've tried to break it with my hand, and it's only ever so thin, but this could be a challenge, a real challenge. You might not even get a bite today, but it's a beautiful lake, and I'm going to actually head up to peg 20, which is up there, middle of the lake. Kind of feel like the middle of the lake's a good place to try and fish. So let's get the kit up there, let's get Barrett up there and try and break the ice. We don't need an icebreaker, I don't think, it's only thin. Hopefully we can just chip a few channels out with my pole, but yeah. Interesting challenge for the day, but this is real fishing, isn't it? You know, if you want to go winter fishing, sometimes you're going to be faced with the ice, so let's get up there, get some kit. It looks like I've got a mount in the tackle, but actually a lot of this is camera kit. So let's head up there and try and break a little channel in the ice. We are greeted with a frozen lake, and I haven't got the necessary equipment to actually break it properly. I didn't even consider that it might be frozen today. I guess in this place there's no wind, and there's all these beautiful trees and that. It must not get a lot of wind, and probably freezes quite a lot, to be fair. Should have thought that one. Anyway, I've sort of done something that you should never do and broke it with my pole. And I think we're going to get out to about 11 metres, which I'd like to have got a bit further, but for now that'll have to do. Because what I'm doing, I'm just chipping away at it with my pole pot, just creating a few little areas, and I'm just chipping away at it and bringing it close to me and scooping it out. So don't try this at home, people. Get the proper equipment would be my recommendation. But needs must today, I'm afraid. So we're using a carp pole and a cupping kit, and we're trying just to make do, really. Right, so we've put the bit of effort in, a bit of chipping away for 20 minutes or so, and we managed to break a nice channel out to about 12 metres, which I can see some lily pads just past that, so at least I'm in the area of near a few bit of cover and stuff. I've got an aerator just to my right, which I can't get to, but for now, this will do. And then if we're not getting any bites later, I can always break another channel out there, out into that open water. I can see some lily pads here to my left under the ice. So I feel like I'm in a good area for a few fish there, in that little bit. But importantly, you've got to get all these shards out your swim, otherwise it'll refreeze. Until that bit of winter sun comes through, your swim will refreeze. I don't want to state the obvious, but it really is worth taking time to get all those little annoying ice shards out your swim. Because the last thing you want is to have to keep re-breaking. I'm not saying you won't have to, because it is ever so cold. But the more of these you can get out your swim, the better to start with. And obviously you want to make sure you've got a bit of an area. If we do catch a fish or two, obviously we want to land them. So around here I do like a bit more of an area around my fishing position, but actually out where I'm actually fishing, I think it's quite important to keep your channel quite narrow, because fish obviously like the cover of the ice, and it's quite important. So I don't mind a bigger gap here where it's a bit, where I need a bit of space to operate. Actually out where I'm fishing, I'm more than happy to keep it as narrow as I can within reason. So that'll do for now, I think. We'll get set up. I'll just get the rest of this ice scoop out of there. The landing net, 4 metre landing net handle. Get all these shards out of the way, and then we can get some rigs in, and then put a little bit of bait in, and hopefully we get a bite or two. But that's looking really good now. I'm happy with that. And we can get some rigs on, hopefully catch a few fish. We've spent time to obviously chip away and make ourselves a channel. And I'm just going to have a quick, I haven't got my side train or anything, I just want to have a little plumb up just before I commit to anything. I don't want to, if it's like, because I've never seen this lake before, it might only be 2 foot deep out there, which means I might have to cut another channel in. So before we get any further, I think it's important just to have a quick plumb up and just see what we can find. I'd like to put in like 2 swims if I can. Yeah, that's a nice depth. Let's just have a little look. If I've got that same again, that's going to be absolutely fantastic. Yeah, same depth. So we've got a good depth there. Look at that. That's great, isn't it? Right. Right, I'm much more confident now. Now I've actually put a plummet on and it's not inches deep. I'm feeling a bit more confident now. I just need to sort my rollers out, because at the minute that's all a bit haphazard, but that's going to be a good 5 foot or so, so I'm happy with that. And we just need to get everything set up properly, but that looks like it's going to be ideal. And I just fancy putting in tiny little bits of ground bait and a few pinkies and an odd maggot, and fishing really frugally and just trying to get a bite, really. That's the plan. Surely if I keep everything nice and accurate up against that ice there, then we're going to have a good day. Well, we're giving ourselves a chance of a good day anyway. That looks great, doesn't it? Right, let's get set up proper, and we'll come back and show you what we're going to do. Okay, so we have had a good plumb up, and it's in my space that I created, it's ever so flat. It's about 4.5, 5 foot, I'd say. I've just made a little mark there. I've plumbed it really accurately. I think when it's so cold, the bites will be ever so delicate. And I've just gone for a 4x12 cypri, nice and simple. I'm going to put a couple of back shot on that. And I think my best approach to get a bite will be to feed tiny little amounts of fishery ground bait, and I'm just going to pot in like hardly any pinkies and an odd maggot. I'm just going to be really frugal. We've just got to try and get a bite today, haven't we, to start with? So we don't want to do anything too bombastic to start with, because we might ruin it, our only chance. So it might take a little while, but I think by just being careful, by putting a tiny bit of bait in, that gives us our best chance. We can always put a bit more in, but I think just a tiny bit of ground bait will hopefully instigate a response on what is a freezing cold day. My rig's really simple. I've just got 2 number 10s and then a string of number 9s above it. It's the same shotting pattern that I always seem to use when I come on these videos. And to be honest, I had all these big plans that yesterday when I was getting ready for this. I set up a waggler rod, I set up a bomb rod, because I thought it'd be quite nice chucking a little waggler around this lake. My plans were stifled, but never mind. We'll get. I'm going to feed 13. Well, it's 12 metres right up against the ice, and I'm going to feed another spot here about 7 metres. Probably don't need to, but I just feel like I'm working my swim at least then, and it gives me 2 options. So I'm just going to quickly check the shot in my rig. And in fact, no, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let's get some bait in, because it might take a while. So let's just show you what we're going to feed. I'm going to do it with a big pot to start with, so I can be really accurate. And I'm literally just going to pop in a little nugget. You could use like a punch or anything to make these tiny little balls of crush, like fishery ground bait like that. One of them. And I'm just going to pop in like 10 pinkies and a couple of maggots. Next to nothing. In fact, I'm going to get really extravagant and put a bit of loose ground bait in as well. And I'm going to put that on both lines just to start with, and just take it from there. I'll let it settle a little bit, and we'll come back to it in like 20 minutes and start fishing. And there's no rush on a day like today. Chances are, if we're going to get some bites, it's going to be later in the day. That would be my thought. So I'm going to be really accurate, because we're feeding such a small amount of bait. Look at that, lovely. It's so clear, the water, that you can actually see that ground bait going down, but that's a good thing. I want a little bit of cloud and stuff. So I've got that one spot there, and then I'm going to do exactly the same on like a top kitten 3. So just a pinch, a little bit of loose, and then a few maggots and a few pinkies. Nice and simple. And hopefully we'll catch a fish or 2. And I've got a feeling it'll all be late in the day when we do, but that's not a problem. We'll be ready for when it happens. So yeah, so that's the baiting. Let's just have a minute, we'll have a brew, and then we'll come back, hopefully catching a few fish. Well, we haven't blanked. Nice little roach. Just sort of left the bait alone for a little bit, and sure enough, we've had a bite. Well, that's a great sign, isn't it? It amazes me you ever get a bite when it's as cold as this, but there is always a chance, and the only way you're going to find out is to actually come and have a go, isn't it? So we're just going to feed like a few maggots, 2 maggots and a few pinkies. Really frugal to start with, because it's obviously that tiny bit of bait's brought a few fish into the swim, so just be super accurate. I'll tell you what, I'm well happy with that. It might only be a little roach, but it's the start of something. It makes it like, it seems possible, doesn't it? When you get a bite, you feel like you can start working at things. And interestingly, there's this ever so slight breeze. It's not a lot. It's actually making the ice hole a little bit bigger. So, oh, another little indication then. So there's obviously some fish out there. Yeah. And yes, they're only little roach to start with, but it's a start. Oh, lovely. Little fish. I'm going to put a single maggot on. And on days like this, just getting a few bites are what we want. I've just got 6 to 8 zip on. Like I say, I'm expecting, well, I'm hoping for a few skimmers. And there are obviously a lot of carp in these lakes, and while I don't think we might not even hook one today because it's so cold, but if we do need a bit of something to give ourselves a chance at least. So the 6 to 8 just will hopefully pay off. Hey up. Just put maggot on instead of pinky in. Oh, look at that. Big wallowy bream. That's unbelievable. The water, you can see that fish 3 or 4 foot down. Ah, hey. What a venue. Dax, the owner, said, oh, you'll catch some skimmers. You might need 2 keep nets. I was like, nah, surely not. And it's taken us 3 casts to catch our first. I'm going to call him a bream. What do you reckon, folks? Does that qualify as a bream? I think it's a bream. Need the disgorger, he's well hooked. Single maggot. It just shows you that tiny bit of bait we put in, hardly anything, just a thimble full of ground bait. And a lovely £2 bream. Well, I wasn't expecting that. Pleasant surprise. It just shows you, doesn't it? So clear, and yet you can still catch them. What a venue. I mean, it is a prolific venue, this. It's, there are big, in the summer, 200-pound weights of carp are pretty common, but obviously, when it's as cold as this, you don't expect a lot. I'm going to put a little pea of ground bait in as well, because I do think that little blob of ground bait can be so good. In the winter, just keeping things going. The water's so clear, I just think a bit of colour in the water with that ground bait can really help. That was a quick bite. I mean, frig had only just settled when that went under. Let's say it's that little 4x12 float. Oh, I'm buzzing now. Getting bites. I think it's important just to say, I did try straight away, I'm not going to lie, I did have a quick go, but when I realised there was no fish there straight away, I literally put my kit down and I went for a walk and just left it alone for a bit, because, oh, another bite. Oh, he's having a maggot. I think sometimes just leaving them alone when you've created a lot of disturbance breaking the ice and put a bit of bait in and that, it can take a little bit of time to get going, so I've even, like in matches, fed my bait and gone for a walk or gone to a cafe or whatever. Something that actually works. I know it seems counterproductive, but actually not having your rig in the water for a little bit can pay off in the long run. And sure enough, it looks like it might have done today. All of a sudden, I'm thinking we're going to catch a load of fish, which is bizarre, isn't it? 10 minutes ago, I thought we were going to struggle for a bite. And now I'm thinking, right, we might catch a load. Because it's just about getting that first bite, isn't it, when you're fishing in the winter. And I reckon we're going to have a lovely day's fishing here. Catching a bit of everything. Okay, so I'm using a 4x12 Cypri, and it's crucial this time of year to dot those floats down, especially on a day like today. There's no wind, we can see every little movement. So we want to be dotted right down, and because these have got like a 1.7mm tip, they dot down lovely. Now, as a normal guide, a 4x12 Cypri takes 3 number 9s and 2 number 10s, and it's shot with lovely sort of half the bristle. But on a day like today, I want it even more dotted than that, and all my Cypris are set up in that way, but when it comes to this sort of thing, and I want it really dotted, I have a couple of bits that I always carry with me. So I always use shot, but to fine tune everything, I use these tiny little number 12 stots. And I don't mind, I'll put, as you see there, it goes from a shot to a stot, and I don't mind that at all. And what I'll do, I'll put 1 or 2 of those little fine-tuning stots to help me dot that float right down. And sometimes I'll actually almost overshot it so it's critical, and then use this pot of bristle grease that I've had since I was about 2, and just put a tiny little dob right on the end, and you can get it almost so the float is like neutral buoyancy almost, like it wants to go under, but that tiny blob of grease holds it up. And sometimes on the hardest of days that can make a big difference. So 2 things you definitely need in your box: some number 12 stots just to finely tune those floats, and a bit of bristle grease. It'll last you forever. So those 2 little items will work a treat, especially like I say, on a day like today, when it could be absolutely rock hard and we just want those tiny little indications to show up. So obviously I caught that skimmer, and while my trusty cameraman was off visiting the various sections of this fishery, I'm going to say, because it's not just a fishing venue, there's all sorts of stuff going on here. There's shooting ranges, they do weddings, open days, there's a cafe, you name it, you can do it here. If you like your country stuff, you can do it here. But while he was off doing that, I just got my head down, did a bit of fishing, and it was obvious that I caught that skimmer out long, and then, no, bream, I'm going to call it bream. I caught that bream out long, but there was loads of roach. I thought, I'll just drop in short, see if I can catch them roach a bit quicker. And it is absolutely solid with them. I can't believe it. I was expecting, you know, an odd fish. I was expecting an odd fish, but nothing like this. I mean, it's just been fantastic. I mean, this is a lovely roach, in fact. I can't believe how good the fishing is. And I've just started loose feeding maggots with a cat. I mean, look at that. What gorgeous fish. I'm just using single maggot, that 4x12 float, and we're catching a roach a truck. Granted, they're not all that size, but they're a good stamp, and I tell you what, it's great fishing. I wasn't expecting it, and because there's so many roach feed, now I've dropped an elastic size, I'm on the 4 to 6 now, just so I can really enjoy this fishing, because if I can get a bite of chuck off these, I mean, what's better than that? Especially on a cold day like this. And I'm just literally loose feeding 15 maggots or so every time I ship out. Remember, I just put that tiny little ball of ground bait in just to kick it off, but they're just loving the maggots. And the fishing is incredible. Now, I'd really like to catch some skimmers. So what I'm hoping is that by fishing this short line, I can kind of attract the roach, if that's even possible. And keep the roach happy here, and then leave that long line quiet, and then I can hopefully pick them off by not loose feeding or anything out there. I'm hoping that the skimmers can just sit out there and be happy, and I can maybe catch a few more of them later on. That's the theory anyway. And if not, I've actually soaked up a few micros as well, because I'm thinking maybe if I fished micros and expander, perhaps I could maybe even be a bit selective perhaps on that longer line. Honestly, I thought we'd be fighting for a bite today. Obviously, I know how good this fishery is, but I never expected it to be like this. When we broke the ice, I mean, it's just a roach a chuck. I haven't had roach fishing like this for a long time, I've got to be honest. It's been a funny winter for the old silverfish fishing. They've been a bit up and down on a lot of venues, and I'm not too sure why that is, but it's obviously condition based, but they're feeding today, and it's nice to get amongst them, especially when you've got, you know, nice light tackle on like this, 4 to 6 zip, and that lovely 4x12 floats just going down to a little dot and dinking under. It's great fishing. I'm definitely going to get through my bait, that is for sure. Might have to go to the shop and buy more. I mean, don't really want to catch them little diddy ones, but thankfully most of them are quite a good stamp, in fairness. It's brilliant, I can't believe it. I just need to work out how to pick out those better ones. It may be that we have to put a heavier rig on, which is brilliant, but one thing about fishing through the ice is it's quite nice because it kind of simplifies your options a bit. You know, you've got your channel to fish in. I mean, it is getting a bit bigger actually, but it simplifies your options, and just set this rig up and that's it. No need to get too elaborate, I don't think. And this rig does both, so this fishing's incredible. And the water's gin clear. I can see them roach coming in from as soon as I hook them. I mean, what have we got here? Probably shouldn't have swung that one. Real lovely fish. I mean, missed the net. Missed the net. But it's real good fishing. I mean, I don't know if you saw. You probably didn't see that. But I've been flicking my rig out and holding it on a tight line. And there are obviously some smaller fish, but that time I just dumped my rig in a bit of a messy heap and caught a better fish straight away. So these are the things that, when you're roach fishing, playing around with your presentation can make a big difference to the size of fish you're catching. It may just be pure luck, of course, but just keep an eye on things like that. You know, sometimes you get a bite of chuck when you're laying your rig out all pretty. You know, you lay it out and howl onto it, but it gives them smaller fish a chance to grab the bait sometimes. Whereas bombing it through them, making your rig look a bit ugly, can sometimes just get through those little fish. And it's quite a basic thing to think about. You know, sometimes the little fish are quite high in the water, but sometimes when you're getting a bite of chuck laying it through, you can get a bit distracted when there's actually better fish to be had at times. So just pay attention to that. And one thing I've noticed is, as soon as the bait's on the bottom for any length of time, I don't get a bite. I think that's often the case when it's gin clear. I think they do like the bait falling through, so if I haven't had a bite, I've been picking the float up 6 inches and just dropping it back down and often getting a bite straight away. But I'm blown away by the fishing. In fact, the cameraman's just been having a walk around, getting some shots of all the other shooting ranges and stuff like that. Found himself in one of the stock ponds and he's just been feeding the stock carp and they've been coming through the ice trying to get the pellets. Look at this. What's not to enjoy about this on a cold winter's day? Cracking roach like that. I mean, they're 3 or 4 ounces probably. You seem to have a lovely day's fishing catching these. And I do know, I've seen Dax, the owner, fishes for the roach even in the summer with like tares and hemp and stuff. There's some great bags of fish. There's no shortage of roach here if you want to catch them. And other than the odd tiny one, they're all a nice stamp as well. Real good fishing. But yeah, I'm just going to plug away at this really because it's just nice. And then I'm hoping, like I say, by keeping that long line unfished and quiet, I'm hoping that we get amongst a few. What have we got here? What have we got here? We've got carp. I hope it's a massive roach. I'm hoping that leaving that long line calm just gives a big fish a chance to come in. We've got here. That's a big roach. Of course it is. Look at that. I mean look at that. I mean that just makes all the effort of breaking the ice and getting here on a cold day. I mean that just makes it worth it, doesn't it? I mean look at that. Look, he's put his fin up for us. And that's just that presentation tweak. I mean, just shows you, doesn't it, how sometimes you just got to think about what you're catching now. I mentioned that I was laying the float and catching those little fish, and I've just changed it by bombing it through, and we just caught those 2 big roach, and it just shows you, doesn't it, sometimes it's little tweaks in presentation and what make the difference. But I mean, I'm just blown away by this. It's freezing, but the fishing is immense. There's a robin here. My goal is to try and get this robin feeding out my hands by the end of the day. But, oh, no maggot. Need a maggot. Okay then. Gonna be like that here. Breamer here. Might be why the roach fishing slide down. Bream have turned up. Right, so master plan I think is coming together nicely. I'm totally blagging it, like I say, I didn't have a clue what to expect. But my thoughts were that I'd keep that long line quiet. Once I started catching these roach short, I thought I'm not going to loose feed out there, I'm just going to be a bit more selective. Now, what I've done, I've mixed a few pellets into my ground bait, and I'm just feeding a bit like what we did at Medlands, in fact, like tiny balls and just leaving them. And I nipped out there 10 minutes ago and I caught a bream. No signs off roach, just a bream out the blue. And I've topped it up and I've gone back to my roach fishing. Now, if I can do that and just keep nipping out, eventually I'll probably end up catching a run of skimmers and bream out there. But sometimes just keeping it quiet like that can really work. And I've started putting a few micros in because it gives me the option of obviously putting an expander on as well, which means I could be even more selective if I want to. But if I can keep the roach busy here, then hopefully that master plan will come together. Now, the fishing, I mean, that's a little diddy roach, but I've had roach sort of 8-10 ounces, average of sort of 3 to 4 ounces, and I can't believe it. I can't believe how good it is. It's literally a fish every drop in, which when you think an hour or so ago, when I first broke the ice out, I was, oh, that's interesting. I've just seen a bubble come up over my long line. Yeah, when I first started fishing, I was thinking, God, this is going to be a failed video shoot if I've ever seen one. But actually, I can't ask for a lot more from a winter's day fishing, to be fair. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let's pop out there, and I'm going to top this up. I'm going to put some ground bait on this one as well, because there's no point messing around really. I think there's plenty of bites to be had, so I'm just going to put a ball of ground bait, and I'm going to be a bit more aggressive now because I think I can be, because we're catching so many fish. We're obviously eating all the bait. I'm going to be a bit more aggressive. No sign of any carp yet, which, if I'm honest, I don't know if I even want to see any carp. I'm quite happy doing this all day, catching roach and skimmers. Right, I'm just going to try an expander, and this is my little pouch of expanders that I brought. These are just 4mm Blake's ones. Lovely little pellet. Now, I still like to pump my pellets. I'm still a big fan of the pellet pump. The reason is I like them to sink. Now, all I do when I'm at home, I like to do them the day before, night before. I'll pump them full of water, and then I put them in the corner of a food bag, cover them with water, right in the corner, and then tie it up tight like that. And then they expand, and it kind of restricts them so they don't get too big, and you get lovely little pellets like that. Now, I don't like them to dry out at all, so I'll just nip the corner of the bag off, just like so, and just squeeze a few in. You see they're sinking in there. And I just prefer having my pellets all sinking like that rather than having them floating where I've got to squeeze them. It just seems to work better for me. So I'm going to whip one of them on and try it. It might not work. I don't know if this is like a pellety water or not, but it's worth a go, isn't it? And I think the fact that we've put some micros in might have meant that the pellet might work, so let's just give it a go. No skimmers on the long line, but who can begrudge catching these beauties on the short line? Look at them, stunning. Total change within the space of like half an hour, 40 minutes. Most of the ice has actually gone. Now we've had a bit of a, sheets of it have gone that way, so all that lovely channel we've cut, long gone. It's all thawing out. Luckily, the stuff above us is sort of held back by a rope and an aerator there, so I think we're in the clear and we've got a nice bit of open water now to fish in. Now I could go and catch a roach every single chuck in if I wanted to on that short line. It's full of them, it's great. But every time I feed on that long line now, I'm getting little bubbles. And I think the skimmers are coming to play now, which is incredible. Considering how cold it was this morning, the fishing has been magnificent. And now, what time is it? Let's have a look. Just gone 1 o'clock. And we're at that time of day now where the skimmers are feeding. And Dax is playing on his digger by the sounds of it. But all of a sudden, we've had 2 in like 5 minutes. Which, you know, all of a sudden we've had 2 in like 5 minutes. Good fish like that. And it just shows you how, even on these cold days, we can catch fish. But I'll tell you what I'm doing is I'm just feeding little blobs of bait. And what I've done, I've got my ground bait and I've wetted it right up, and I'm feeding little over wet balls now, like that, with an odd pinky in, and that's all I'm feeding. One of them, as accurate as I can, and then I'm being super patient over the top, but all of a sudden, every time I feed now, I'm getting a response. And it's incredible, really, how it's all coming together. So now I'm trying to be super accurate. I've got to make the most of this now. So I'm making sure I'm on the end of my section every time. So make sure I'm like feeding in exactly the same spot, right up against the far bank mark. I've got a lovely like green evergreen there, right on the end of that. Just plop that in, as accurate as I can. And I'm not waiting anymore, I'm going straight on it. Now you may be thinking, why aren't you just using a kinder pot to do all that? Well, the reality is, that little brief moment of coming back, putting your bait on, just allows that bait to get on the bottom and the fish to find it. So it just slows you down sometimes, and that can be a benefit. Now hook bait wise, what I'm using is my favourite winter hook bait, whether I'm fishing for F1s or skimmers, is a single maggot and a fluoro pinky. You can't, for me, if you're targeting quality in the winter, that hook bait is the ultimate. Caught so many fish on that over the years. And it's just been incredible, the fishing. Right, so we're at an unbelievable day's fishing. I can't believe how good it is. So, as you can see, total change now. The wind's got up, and actually, the ice has gone now. And which has opened up the lake a little bit. But what is amazing is the fact that we're actually catching the roach shallow now. And what's even more amazing is we've had a few skimmers shallow as well, just mixed in with the roach. And I've just set up a little tiny little 4x10 rig, and just on that short line, there's fish to catch shallow, and it's just amazing. Now, I spoke to Dax. I was just flying my drone around a bit ago, and I did speak to Dax and sort of say I can't believe how many roach there are, and he sort of mentioned that, you know, you can catch 60-70 pound weights of roach on this lake in the summer, and I can well believe it, because they're not little roach, they're like good roach you're catching. Real mix, to be fair, but you know, good roach, and I can't believe how good it is. The roach fishing, that is. And he says that's what he loves doing, which makes sense, because I say that, I'll catch a little one, but it's been really good. And I mean, this is the matched lake, this is the Oaks Lake, it's sort of 20 odd pegs, quite a long thin lake. There's 3 other lakes on site. You've got the Islands Lake, which is one I've filmed on before actually, which is a nice sort of 12 peg, perfect for like a small club or a small match, or pleasure fishing of course. And that's full of like carp, barbel and skimmers. Then you've got the Moat Lake, which is a lovely lake as you drive in, which was an out and out silverfish lake. It had loads of tench in it, crucians, barbel. But Dax actually put some carp in it last year, so there's a load of little carp in that lake now as well. So if you want just a load of bites, that's the lake to go on. But having said all that, I mean, look how good the fishing is on here. I mean, this is more, you know, your carp, skimmer sort of typical match lake. But there's all these silvers to go at as well. And I'm just going to catch one more on this shallow rig. And I just topped up that long line. few minutes ago, so I'm itching to have a good finish on that. You know, whether we catch a run of skimmers, I don't know. But I certainly think there's a chance we could catch one or two just to end on. But let's do it, let's get out there, because as enjoyable as these roach are to catch, I do like clunking into skimmers. Yeah, lovely, aren't they? So let's sack that off now and let's get out there skimmering. Now, one thing that I did notice while I was on my little drone fly around was the specimen lake, which is the Wold Lake. Now, I'd seen on the fishery website like pictures of catfish and all that. And I spoke to the Dax and he says, oh, there's loads of carp in there, £30, and it's crystal clear. Now, I flew the drone around thinking, oh, that's nice to get a few shots of that lake. And I actually found all the fish. A big shoal of them by the island. Great big hippos. It's great to see. I'd love to come back on a summer's day and maybe try and fish for some of them. Bring some carp kit and maybe have a proper go for them. But yeah, if you do fancy catching some proper fish, big fish, you've got that option on that lake. You know, if you want to fish with bite alarms and boilies and stuff, or pellets, the ideal lake for that. It's a bit of everything here for people. Like I say, he does weddings, he does all sorts. Oh, right, it's not the skimmer I was hoping for. Nice fish though. One thing that's pretty obvious is the quality of the fishing though, because whether I've been here before and fishing with pellets or whether like today just fishing for silvers and maggots and stuff, the quality of the fishing has been great every single time. Can't believe it, to be fair. I was really worried when we got going this morning, but I didn't need to be, did I? Because fishing's been exceptional. Good load of bubbles out there now. Surely I'm going to catch a skimmer in a minute. I must say, it's just a real hidden gem, this place. It's, like I say, it's right next to Santa Pod Raceway, so actually just over there is the drag strip. And tucked away is this little piece of heaven. It's like in all the trees and woodland and incredible place. And for years I just thought it was like private, you know, you had to book to come here and a bit awkward to like come and fish here, whereas now it's not the case. You can turn up on the day, they let you in through the gate and you can come here and fish. So it's not like it used to be, it's much more open. Obviously there's a tackle shop here, the calf, all the Great Lakes, toilet facilities. It's just a great place to come. Brilliant fishery. I can't believe I can't get a bite out there at the minute because they're all over me. Oh, there's one on. I went to move my rig and there was a bream on. And I couldn't get a bite, there was already one on. It's not foul up. They're obviously out there. That 4-6 zip is so nice for these fish. Cracker. Interestingly, that is foul up. Right in the wing. Look at that, it's hooked in the fin, look. So they're obviously there, and I just wonder if they're just sort of milling around and not really feeding. Strange that. I did think, I wonder if I fouled that when I lifted up into it. Let's not let it deter us. I'm gonna pop a little tiny nugget in. Just a little baby one. Like no, I'm not even going to put that much in. Little tiny thumbnail size ball, and I'm just going to go straight out onto it. Nice and accurate. I'm just going to go straight into it. Amazing when you fish so, you know, delicate, you know, you're fishing dead depth, and yet you still foul off something that's bubbling out there already. Let's see if we can end on one. Nice skimmer to end on. They've come straight to that bait because I've just popped that tiny little ball in and they're fizzing up all over it. So they're coming straight to it. Well, I was hoping to go out on a big run of skimmers, and they're clearly in my peg because we've caught one and we just fouled up one a few minutes ago. But I must admit, I think they beat me. I think they beat me because I just can't seem to get a bite off one. Clearly in my peg because every time I feed even the smallest amount of bait, I get bubbles and stuff. But I just can't seem to get one to actually take my hook bait. It's really weird. It's they might have got the better of me here, and I might have to just catch a few roach to finish on. Because it's getting cold and the light is fading fast. I thought it'd be solid with them by now, and to be honest, they're clearly in my peg. But like I say, maybe I should have stuck to my guns and stuck with the pellets and fish from that way. But you'd think, wouldn't you, a single maggot and a pinky or double pinky, you'd be able to fool them. But the cameraman just mentioned like a bit of finely chopped worm, which is probably not a bad shout, but I can't say I've got any worms with me. Might have worked just to get a light response. Yeah, must admit, it's intrigued me why I can't catch them. Get on the boat. I've got to feed. I was going to say I'm going to finish on some roach, but I've got to put another ball in or something just to. For my own peace of mind rather than anything. Right, what we're going to do is put a little blob of micros in. That's what we're going to do. And put an expander on the next time we go out. And I'm going to be honest with you, if I don't show you that on camera, it's probably because it hasn't worked. I've gone home. Let's catch a few roach on that short one, which incidentally we haven't really topped up throughout the day. We just loose fed over the top and it's been great. There's been loads of bites on it. I just can't believe how many roach we've fed today. I know they're obviously pretty reliable, aren't they, in the winter, but geez, it's been unbelievable. Yeah, hold me big up again.
Look at that. Trying my hardest to catch skimmers out there. Catch one short. Maybe it's just the ground bait, you know, feeding ground bait, just making the peg too many particles in the swim, and just loose feeding maggots is the way to go perhaps. That's bang in the mouth. Perfect fish to end on. I'm probably gonna keep fishing and try and suss that long line out, but that is a bit of a warrior. We've got a helicopter coming over. Needless to say, I've had a brilliant day here at Wold Farm. I mean, it has been probably the best silverfish fishing I've had all winter. It's been incredible. And all that on just, you know, a couple of quid's worth of maggots, handful of pinkies, and a tiny little bit of ground bait. So what more can you want? Brilliant venue, whether you're a match angler, pleasure angler, something here for everyone. So check it out if you're in the area, and we'll see you again on the next one. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because there's loads more coming from Nufish.